dealing with variable print for blindness and braille, color blindness, and dyslexia. He explained some key concepts about designing too. Some of them where the text should be defined, where a selection of fonts and visual aids, margins and columns, leading or spacing, and importance of alternative text. Then he talked about types of VDP softwares. He explained about the best practices in VDP and what is data conditioning. And today we have Mr. Paul Abdul sir and Mr. Skip Henk sir who will be talking about Explore Advantage, how the vendors, print companies and students can take advantage of this. Before the session starts, I'd like to introduce Mr. Skip Henk sir. Just a minute.
Okay. What do I want to? I go now?
No, just hold on a second.
She's got a slide, I think.
Ah, okay.
Is it visible?
Yes.
Yes, Revati.
Yeah. Mr. Skip Heng sir was the director of sales for Kodak. Also, he worked as director of North American sales for Kodak, Versa, and Cytex Digital Printing. He served as director of production product support at Delphax Technologies Inc. He has been vice president of operations at Strategic Marketing Systems. He is the president or CEO of the Global Association XPLOR since 2004. Over to you, sir.
Hey, Skip, you're up.
Okay. Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here. I'm really honored to be here to be able to speak with you tonight. And I want to welcome you to the Explore community. And I use the term community because Explore truly is a community. We're a global community. Paul and I go back, how long, Paul? 20 years?
Yeah, at least, yeah.
Okay, I think I had brown hair when I met you.
This is true.
And I was probably a little bit taller too, but we're a community of professionals with members in 25 different countries, including Australia, Austria, Belgium, Brazil, France, Germany, Hungary, India. We have a couple members in India, Netherlands, and many others. So we're a global community that reaches out, and it's kind of hard to say. Well, I use the term community, but it's more like a family. If you ever, when you have, I won't say if, when you have the opportunity to participate in an Explore event, you'll feel that sense of community. What's unique about the Explore community is all of our members are willing to share and help each other. We develop lifelong relationships with people. As I mentioned, I've known Paul for 20 plus years. And you get to know people from all over the globe. From a personal perspective, I've been a member of Explore for 32 years. Explore has been an association for 35 or 36 years. Every job I've had is a direct result of being an Explore member. I met my wife through Explore. As I mentioned, I have friends all over the globe. If I want to go to Europe, I can call up Explore members. Anywhere in the North America. So you develop all of these partnerships, or they're not partnerships, but friendships. So it's a wonderful, wonderful way to move along your career, develop some great relationships and friendships. Now, as a community, Explore provides education, information, networking opportunities to our members, and the industry we serve. So our goal, once again, is to assist in advancing the careers of our members and to promote the industry at the same time. The whole university concept actually was brought up or started by Paul and Michael at Ryerson in Toronto. How long ago, Michael? 5 or 6 years now, Paul?
Oh, actually, 10, Skip.
What?
Yeah, I know. Time flies.
Oh my gosh. So Ryerson, our university chapter in Ryerson has been going on for 10 years, evidently. That's what I meant with slowing down and enjoying things. So, and then we added Cal Poly. What's that, 4 years ago now?
About that.
No, okay. So Cal Poly, and then, I'm so pleased that Medora and Manish and Paul and Michael were able to get India going here. So, this whole concept of bringing along the younger people in our industry and trying to help them, trying to make them part of the community is what we're trying to do.
That's right.
So I want to give you a little bit of history about Xerox or about XPLOR. Back in 1977, which I'm imagining none of you were born at that point in time, but back in 1977, Xerox introduced a printer called the Xerox 9700. The software was so advanced at the time. Back then there was the IBM PPS-1 and there was a printer by Honeywell. But the Xerox 9700, the software was so advanced on it, and it had so much functionality. Now, nothing compared to what the systems are today, but back then, think back, or I won't say try to think back that far because you weren't born yet, but back then, it was so advanced that the users of the system were having a hard time trying to figure out how to use it. So Xerox was getting a lot of bad publicity from their users that the system did not function properly or whatever. So they came up with the idea of creating a Xerox users group. And then Xerox started that group in 1978. And the new group that they formed was called XPLOR. Now, XPLOR actually is an acronym that stands for Xerox Printing Liaison Organization. And in fact, the logo itself was created by the first executive director's daughter. When he saw her write the word XPLOR, she was a teenager at the time, he looked at it, he liked it, and they stylized the logo. So the word XPLOR itself was handwritten by the executive director's daughter. So what happened was, once this group started, over time, it got bigger and bigger and bigger. The group quickly expanded and was incorporated in 1980 as what we'd call in the States a not-for-profit organization. And because it grew so fast, there was some government regulations in the United States that said that it had to open it up to other vendors. So in 1982, other vendors were able to become part of XPLOR. So over the years, many, many vendors have become engaged with XPLOR, not only from a printer perspective, but from a software and services perspective. Now, our members initially printed large volumes of bills, statements, direct mail, and insurance policies. But over time, as other technologies evolved, and were incorporated, they were incorporated into XPLOR's programming. So as social media came out, as the internet came out, as all these alternate channels came out, XPLOR embraced that as part of our program. Now, printing is still a huge part of the XPLOR community. I would guess 80 to 85% of our member companies continue to do high volumes of print, but they also output social media and electronic statements and that type of thing. And I think that that's going to continue for some time. So when you look at the history of XPLOR, and you look back and say, you know, what does XPLOR have to offer people in the industry? Well, first of all, we have membership within XPLOR. We have ways to recognize people through industry awards. We have leadership opportunities. We have an industry certification program. And then, once again, we have the whole concept or community of XPLOR. Now, XPLOR membership, we offer, you get a lot of information. I mean, our goal is to provide the information and the training to the people within the industry. So if you're an XPLOR member, you have access to hundreds of industry presentations, webinars, recordings, video, information. Information is king. If you have the opportunity to access and tap into these other people within the industry that are considered experts, it's invaluable. Access to sponsored webinars. You can join the XPLOR LinkedIn group. We have, I think it's 1,800 people in our LinkedIn community. This is a place you can go and find out various things. I mean, you can ask questions. You can go to LinkedIn. XPLOR members love to share. So you can go in, you can ask questions, you can do, you know, get all the information that you need. In terms of industry certification, we're all involved in industry certification. Michael, you're an EDP, right? And Paul, are you an EDP or an MEDP? I'm not sure.
MEDP now. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, and I'm in EDP. Now, what that means is, you know, we have an EDA, which is kind of a entry-level certification if you're 2 years into the industry, or you have schooling, which many of you qualify for. Both Paul and Michael kind of spearheaded this within Ryerson. You can become an EDA while you're still in school. EDP, you have to have 5 years plus experience. You have to write some portfolios and do some other thing. And then MEDP, you have to have 10 years plus experience and specialize in a certain area. And the only person that is old enough between Michael, Paul, and I is Paul, evidently. So, but anyway, we do offer the industry certification, and people are regarded that have these certifications as the best of the best. We put on a variety of educational programming, mainly in North America, but as we kind of jumpstart this chapter, I hope at one point we can have local meetings throughout India. We put on 24 educational webinars each year. We do local programs. We do events in conjunction with other larger events. And then we have an annual conference, typically in the spring in Florida, which unfortunately this year we couldn't have it in spring, we couldn't have it in the fall, but hopefully we can have it next spring. So our objective is to have as much programming as possible. So one of the things I'd like to do is to get things started, and Dura, I'll work this through you. We'll figure this out one way or another. I'd like to offer your students a complimentary membership to XPLOR for a year. So what I can do, Madura, is we can get a list of the students. I can give you, we'll generate a code, or we'll figure it out one way or another logistically, how to get the students engaged that are interested in being involved for a complimentary XPLOR membership, student membership. So the other thing, and I know your time differences, but we have a conference coming up. If you want to hear some of the best people in the industry, we have a virtual conference coming up over 4 days, September 29th, October 1st, October 6th, and October 8th. And what I'm going to do is I'll provide you a code so that the students can register for the event, understanding that they're probably, hopefully, sleeping while the event's going on, but all of the sessions are going to be recorded, and that would give them access to all of those recorded sessions. So they would have access to it for, I think it's 6 months. We have an LMS system, and they'll have free access to all of those presentations for 6 months. So that'll give them the opportunity to kind of get a better feeling. A lot of the people that present at this event, they have been doing this for quite a while. You'll also be able to see the recording of the Cal Poly. We have a design competition between the universities, which hopefully we'll get you guys involved in it next year. But they actually go in and design a transactional document, a bill, and they do a presentation on how they came up with the colors, how they came up with different elements in the bill. But these are the college students that have done this, and they win a scholarship, and we invite them to the conference and that type of thing. But it'll give you an idea of what they're doing here in the U.S. Now, what would be fun, and we need to talk about this, Michael and Paul, is how do we hook India up with our friends at Cal Poly and you know, our friends at Ryerson. You know, as this evolves, I think there's a lot of possibilities. So, but Dura, I'll send you also the registration link and a code so that the kids can jump on and register. So, and I think it would be worthwhile for them to do that and be able to see some of the things that we're talking about over here from an educational perspective. So, but you know, as I mentioned, XPLOR is a community, and anywhere I go in the world, when I travel to Europe, whether it's business or even for leisure, there's an XPLOR member somewhere. So I always have the opportunity to connect with people all over the world, which has probably been one of the most fulfilling functions of my job. So um, I don't know, Paul, is there anything else specific you want me to talk about for XPLOR? Or?
No, I think those are great stories. And, as Skip said, it's hard for me to believe that my first conference was in 1998. When I went to Nashville, and at that time I was very inspired to really think about how I could improve, because when I went there I felt like some of these people were speaking a different language. I didn't understand some of the things they were saying, and um, 20 years later, I am that person, and I'm writing. And as Skip said, one of the things to earn your master EVP is to be published, and that was key in the process for me. So, but yeah, it's been great for me, and I have lots to say about it in my presentation. So,
Yeah,
Good stuff.
it's been good
Yeah.
to me. I will tell you that. So.
Yeah,
Yeah,
uh, I think that's a great explore advantage that our students would be receiving. Maybe this 1 year membership could help them listen to various webinars and attend the national your conference, annual conference, which is coming up. And I think thank you very much for this advantage, and I'm sure the students would get maximum benefit out of it, hopefully, and then how and then we can eventually see how we can pass on this advantage to the industry, and if we can have members as you have members in the USA or in Canada for XPLOR, then we can similarly have those such members being associated with XPLOR India, and then we can
I
eventually
would love
plan
that.
out.
yes, Skip, I'm sure you saw some of the notes that we talked about earlier from the first session. The first section, of course, had a service bureau owner who was an RIT graduate, as well as a graduate from the college here as well. And he's returned to India, and he showed us some videos of his shop, and it was very impressive. Things that you would recognize, of course, as you walk through an operation. And I think some of the students had seen some of it for the first time, things like everything from roll-fed printers to automated inserters, etc. So I think there's a community of vendors and folks in India that are involved in this industry that would get a lot out of it.
Well, we need to engage them too. I mean, if there's anybody in the industry that's on now, I'd like to extend you an opportunity to be part of XPLOR also. If there's vendors on here, the vendors are really what helps and assists the students in terms of their industry exposure. And it's advantageous for vendors to engage the students also, because they're the people that are going to be making the decisions in not too long. I mean, talk about Ryerson being around for 10 years. I mean, it's a blink of an eye. So when vendors are investing time in students and help bringing them along and educating them, it's really an investment for the vendor, because at some point, these are the people, the students are on this call right now, are the people that are not only going to be making the decisions, but are going to be signing the orders to buy this hardware and software. So it's a great partnership between the vendor community and the students and the users of the technology.
That's true.
Absolutely, absolutely right.
It's a great segue into what I'm going to talk about, Skip.
That was the plan, Paul.
That's right. We get
You know, if you do this long enough, it just all flows together, right, Skip?
Yep.
Yeah, I just wanted to make one comment on the certification. The only two things that have meant anything to me in my career are my Ryerson IT diploma and my EDP certification. And when I applied to teach at Ryerson, you have to have a master's degree. And when the dean looked at obviously my IT diploma, but he looked at my EDP portfolio, and he said, that's right, like writing a master thesis, and he gave me equivalent status. A master's degree at Ryerson, which was amazing. So my certification qualified me to teach at Ryerson. So I'm absolutely grateful for that. So again, this pin I'm wearing, this means a lot to me, and it's been an amazing ride, and I hope it continues. But do support the certification program.
And and to go further, not just somebody at the university recognizing it, but I'll give you a very practical example for me as a Canadian who has worked in the US, and Skip helped me with this as well, was to get a work visa. I've had a couple of work visas in the US, and one of the things they look for is an understanding of why you should participate in their economy, and what value are you bringing, and the EDP was part of that, and being published in a few different places, and that really helped.
Well, my EDP story was I actually became an EDP because somebody dared me to do it. I was actually at a meeting at headquarters, the old XPLOR headquarters in California. We were all sitting around a table, and they were discussing why more people at that time, this is 7 years ago, why more people weren't becoming EDPs. So I said, looked around the table and I said, everybody that's an EDP, raise your hand. Well, nobody raised their hand. And this is the management and the core of XPLOR. And I said, well, why would anybody else do this if you're not doing it? So I did become an EDP. And the interesting thing was, at the time, I was in sales and marketing. I wasn't a technical person. I was not somebody that could code or do any of that. I mean, I could code Xerox JSL, which, I mean, that's not even programming compared to what, I mean, coding JSL was nothing. But so I had to submit my portfolio. I'm a salesperson. Well, I got this industry certification. I did pass, and I had a couple of people help me along the way as mentors. But I got this EDP I got to put on my card. So I didn't think much of it. But then I started going on calls with some of the technical people, and people said, well, what's this EDP stand for? Well, I said electronic document professional. And, they said, well, what did you have to do to get this? So I gave a short explanation as to what I had to do. And the amazing thing is, and you'll learn this for the people that are in school, when you go out with this, if you're the technical guy and you go out with the salesperson, a lot of people don't give a lot of credibility, in the United States anyway, to that salesperson. They listen to the technical person because the technical person is the one that's got to make it work. But when somebody saw that EDP and understood what it was behind my name, it gave me instant credibility. And technical people that are in our industry that are certified have even more credibility because they know what you had to do to get to that certification. So I'm a big believer in the program also.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I guess that would also add an advantage to the students if they are, if you are able to give them the EDA certification
Mhm.
initially, and then if they feel that they are okay with that and comfortable with it, and then they can eventually after they want to come back and go for an EGP, and then
Yeah,
thereafter the other certifications. I think that's also a great idea.
yeah. I believe they have in the program. Paul, you can correct me, or Michael. 5 years from the time you get your EDA to the time you need to have your EDP. I think it's 5 years. So,
Okay.
but we bend it too a little bit.
We've
We
been it.
want we,
Yeah, you
we
can
want
apply your dues now to EDA. So if you belong to a student chapter and you're paying your dues, those dues can be applied to the fee. I think up to 200 US. So for $50 US, you can be certified as you graduate. So I think that's pretty amazing.
Okay. That's great. Right.
Yeah, one of the things we need to talk about, and Madura, we can talk about this offline, is as we, and initially all of the memberships, will Explore International cover the memberships. But moving forward, I want to make sure I'm not having been to India or what the structure is and everything. We need to figure out and
Yeah.
what those fees may or may not be uh, based on the U.S. dollar and all that stuff. So you and I and Manish can talk about that offline.
Sure, sure. Definitely. Right. Great. All right. So
You're
now,
up, Paul, I guess.
yeah, so over to you, Paul.
All right. Should I start right now? Go right ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to share a presentation I put together.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I actually had slides. I'll send them to you.
Let me know when you can see it.
Okay.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah,
It's visible.
Great, great. So I learned from Skip that logo in the top corner up here was stylized by the leader's daughter. I never knew that. I always liked it myself. Anyway, I wanted to talk along the same lines as Skip, but to give you some personal stories and some other more advantages in my opinion. And I want to talk about it from all standpoints, be it the vendors, printers, and students. So, but first things first, for those who know me and I do presentations, I like to take care of some housekeeping. I'd like you to ask and answer questions in the chat window. So I'm hoping that this will as I'm presenting, I'm not seeing the chat window, so please stop me, Madhura or Michael, if you see something in the chat window, and we'll get some feedback. Of course, we always want people who are involved in presentations to tweet about it. Use explore_INT for international with the hashtag XPLOR India, and hopefully we'll see some trending things there. So first of all, I wanted to talk a little bit about the word ecosystem. Skip mentioned Explore being a community. I also see it as an ecosystem. And when you think about nature, it's really this unit of living and non-living components that work together and feed each other and provide energy for each other. And that's what I've always felt at Explore, is that as we came together, we learned and we fed off of each other, and our energy rose and we all got better. And it really kept taking the level up. And that was with education, with networking, and really taking the industry forward in many ways. In some cases, XPLOR was ahead of its time to the point where the industry had to catch up, or customers had to catch up, because we were doing something new. We're talking about something different. And I think it's all because of the ecosystem. And when you look at XPLOR, as Skip mentioned, it's a worldwide association that's been around for a long time, closing in on 40 years. And it's the pieces of the ecosystem for me is the users, the suppliers of the products and services, and the people that work within it, the knowledge workers that we all become as we work within the industry. And so when we think about the components of this ecosystem, we talked about vendors, print operations, like we saw on a couple of weeks ago with the Service Bureau that in India, where they were showing the printing, the inserting of envelopes and documents. But then there's people who are actually customers or users of the software or hardware, and they are the ones that are serving a larger system, which is our economy. And so where do you fit into this? Well, you could be somebody who works in a print operation, you're studying that. You could become a vendor who sells this software or equipment to the print operations or the users. Maybe you'll become a user of it, but you'll have a great understanding of what's going on in the ecosystem, which is one of the big things that I think is important about the EDP program, is that all the EDP folks, they weren't just salespeople or technical people, so they weren't necessarily from vendors or print operators, but they were actually users of the technology. And by having an understanding of that ecosystem and how they work together and why it's important, really help those people as well. So first question I wanted to ask everybody was, how many people does it take to send a customer communication out? I'll give everybody a chance to type something into the chat. And think about it from different departments or people who would be involved with it. And Madhura, if you could just read them out or shout them out so I could see if people are participating in what they're saying.
Yeah, sure. Let them start putting in. See, students, the question is, how many people does it take to send a customer communication out? Okay, so I guess it means that how many people are required, you know, in order to make a communication to a customer.
Right. Are you getting any feedback, Madhura? Well, I'll let them go on this first one, but I'll give you an example of the people who are involved. So information technology, or IT people, as Skip was mentioning, there's the people that purchase or source the technology, whether it's hardware or software. There's people who make sure that that communication and whatever is said is compliant with the local laws or with that particular communications regulation. There's a line of business team that may own the content of that communication, and so they would be involved with the creation of it. In addition, marketing might be involved because they want you to not just be communicated to, but they want to inform you of what's coming and what's new and exciting. After all of that's put together, operations has to actually print it, distribute it, whether it's physical or electronic. And then once it goes out the door, somebody has to understand, either are we trying to collect money for a service that was provided, or just controlling the cost of the overall operation if it's in-house. So this, you'll notice I said in-house. What if somebody outsourced this, for example, to the operation that we saw in week 1? Who would be involved? It's a trick question because it's all the same people. The difference is that you're just sending data to that operation so that they can do all of these things on your behalf. Now, what you'll notice is all the stakeholders are involved: the people who use it, the vendors who provide the tools, hardware, software, or the print operations that actually get those documents or communications out the door. So what does it look like? There's a big workflow. Here's a sample one where it starts on the far left from the data source. This information is composed, it's transformed, it's adjusted for operations, it's watched throughout the entire process, it's printed, inserted, sorted, or electronically distributed, and it might even end up in a postal system or multiple postal systems along the way. So this, you'll notice that there are dozens of products in here. So the vendor community has a large opportunity to provide the ecosystem, the nutrients, if you will, for this operation. And of course, in each of these areas, it's a potential job as for one of the students. It's a great place for the overall operation to find workers who are educated on the overall system. Now, this overall system or operation is something that needs to be managed. People need to understand it. It needs to drive revenue for different players, and it's really important to communicate. And so I just want to give an example of the ecosystem, the different elements of how users, vendors, and print operations are all working together in the ecosystem. So I wanted to put out a warning to your students. And I wanted to say to them that what they're about to hear is not being taught by you. And it's not that it's wrong, but your vision, your mission, it's fantastic. It has great information, depth about the printing industry, all sorts of valuable tools. We know that your program education objectives are significant. They lead you from the basics of pre-press, color, printing, all the way down to all sorts of environmental components that are important and how increasing value for customers and people who are printing. And the outcomes I loved on your website as well. And one thing that I really liked, and I'm going to get more into, I'm giving you a hint, is that you want the graduate to demonstrate managerial skills, individual skills, and team spirit. And this is something that will take them a long way. But what's not here, and it's not on Ryerson's either, this is an excerpt from their graphic communications management page. They're doing very similar things. They're trying to teach multifaceted components of the print industry and preparing their students for the world. But there's something missing, something that XPLOR can provide. Does anybody know what it is? Anything coming up in the chat window? Any guesses?
Networking.
Networking. Great. And it's not just networking, but it's network. So it's the work is the important part, and it's something I wanted to stress today. Skip talked a little bit about it. He said every job he's had since he started in this industry was because of XPLOR. And that's what I wanted to talk about. So I want to talk about why you should network, how increasing your social capital is really important. And if we were all together, I would demonstrate how to work the room or meet people. But I'm going to do it virtually, so I put together a few things for you. So first of all, why network? A survey by Business Network International of hundreds of business people around the world, they said 75% of them got most of their business through their network. And 82% of people belong to some sort of networking group. So that means there's only 18% of business people that are not involved in some sort of association or group. You had some people on in week 1 that were part of a local printing association. And Skip, you should see what they're doing there. They're building a museum. It's fantastic. And it is so important for your career to be part of something like this because it's going to help you. I'm a big proponent of this, whether it's XPLOR, BNI, other associations. I am involved with many. I know Skip has been and Michael have as well. XPLOR has its own focus, and that's important. But if you do nothing, you should try to network. And why? Because you have to increase your social capital. And what does that mean? I'm going to read this part because it's really important. It's resources accumulated by an individual or a business used for or is available for use for the production of wealth. And the wealth doesn't necessarily mean money. And the resources are not necessarily money. The resources are ideas, knowledge, information, opportunities, and as you try to build your business or your own, whatever you're involved with, you want people to speak highly of you and provide referrals. So all of these things are really important, and I know they've been valuable to Michael and Skip throughout our lives. So why else should you network? So you build this social capital up. Employment insurance. This sounds crazy, but as Skip mentioned, his jobs all came from XPLOR. I never feel like I'm not going to be working. Somebody will recognize my skills or know me or have an opportunity or want me to help them because of my knowledge and what I've learned throughout the XPLOR community, whether it's through the EDP program, attending conferences, webinars, and little things along the way. So it provides that stability in my life, and it's been great. And who you know is as important as what you know. So you're studying, and that's why I pointed it out on the websites from both your college as well as Ryerson's. You are learning and what you know is being developed, but who you know should be being developed at the same time. So these things are very important to consider. So let me talk about the XPLOR effect and the advantage for Paul Abdool. So there was a time that I wasn't in this industry. So I call that the pre-documents era. But after that, for those of you who were around in week 1, I mentioned I got into this business by accident selling envelopes. My boss at the time invited me, if you look to the right-hand column, you'll see to participate in a chapter in Canada. We had 3 chapters at the time. Eastern chapter, I was the meeting coordinator. During that time, I was taken to my first XPLOR conference in 1998. At that time, I started to study what was going on in the industry. Somebody from Pitney Bowes said, hey, there's this ambitious young man. He's studying how his envelopes are going to make my machines work better. I want to offer him a job. So they offered me a job selling their inserters. I learned about composition software. Electronic presentment and payment was becoming more and more prevalent as the internet picked up. And along the way, my stock rose in XPLOR Canada and I became vice president. From there, as I'm at an XPLOR conference, the CEO of Kuber Data Transfer asked me to go work for his organization because he liked what he saw when I was presenting. I worked for them for a while. They became members of XPLOR. And then I went on to the national level and I was a meeting coordinator, a vice president. I was president of Canada. And then I met Skip and we worked together on the association board of directors. And then from there, I still am the treasurer of XPLOR Canada. But during that time, somebody from Icon offered me a position at a dinner at XPLOR. So another networking session. So I took them up on that opportunity and I learned even more. I then went on to XPLOR International and I became a board member and eventually chairman of the board. So after seeing these people in the first conference, I got excited. I said, I want to be chairman one day. And then I worked very closely with Skip and the team. And one of the XPLOR members from Solimar Systems, they're a longtime XPLOR vendor, asked me to work for them and to help them develop some different processes as they brought on a new product. So that was an exciting opportunity. It was my first vice president role. And then from there, Doxum, another XPLOR member, the president and founder of Doxum was the president of XPLOR Eastern chapter. After working with him on the board, he then said, why don't you come run my sales team, Paul? I'd like you to do that. Now, I decided to resign from Doxum, but along the way, I talked about employment insurance. One of the things that was important is I decided to do some consulting. And who did I consult for? 3 different XPLOR members. So during that time, during COVID, during an economic downturn on the planet, I felt okay. And I did work for different people there. And then from there, I started to do some more consulting for another organization. And I will be starting to do some full-time work for Waypath Consulting shortly. And all of this was because of networking and the times I've had at XPLOR. So that's the XPLOR effect for me, that I know you could completely experience. What's really important is from day one till now, I've had a 700% increase in my income. I'm going to say that again, 700% increase. If you take a job and you stay in a job and you get 2, 3, 4, 5% increases, it can happen over time, but to get exponential increases in growth, you have to educate yourself, network, and take yourself to the next level by putting in the energy. So that's a big reason for me for being XPLOR, and the effect is why networking. But the other piece that's really important is that nobody's done anything really big on their own. And so you saw Manish, who went to your school, then he went to RIT, he started to learn through the XPLOR network, he got some bigger positions, and now he's the CEO of an organization. All of these things happen because of his network and his education. And you know what? Somebody's always thinking about you. Here's what happened after I spoke to you 2 weeks ago. A few people hit me up on LinkedIn. Last week, more people hit me up on LinkedIn. And I think that's fantastic. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. So one of the things that I think is really important to understand is what the goal of networking is. So all of networking is based on the ability of people to remember 3 things when they need something. They want to know who you are, what you can provide, and how to access you. If they can find that information, then you can help them. And you'll notice my network on LinkedIn is just over 2,000 contacts now, and these people can all help me and I help them. And the more we know, the better we can be. So I think someone's always thinking about you, and I'll give you an example. Natalia, Michael, I know you know Natalia. She was a professor at Ryerson University.
Yes.
She went to an XPLOR event and we talked. And she discussed speaking to her class when school started. Our school starts in North America in September or August, depending on where you live. And she sent me an email because I gave her a business card. She's thinking about me, thinking about what we talked about. And she said, this is a guy that can present some networking information to my class, because I told her the same thing I'm telling you. This is missing, and I wish somebody told me this when I was at university. And she knew how to contact me because she had my business card and my contact information. So what happened? She remembered who I was, what I could provide, and how to access me to provide something for her. So I think another thing that is fun about this whole thing is that you meet people. Skip talked about meeting people from all over the world. I have as well. He didn't mention Iceland. I know he's been to Iceland, and one of the XPLOR members from Iceland, he sent me this. I don't know if you can see this, Skip.
I don't see any. What are you showing me?
Oh, I'm not sure if you could see it. It was, maybe you can't see. Can you see my face while I'm presenting?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Can
we
you
can
read?
see an envelope.
So this is a coaster.
A coaster, okay.
It is from a service bureau in Iceland. They sent me this in the mail at Christmas time. and they are an XPLOR member, and that was one of their ways of communicating and staying in touch. So Svenborn Hemerson sent that.
Svenborn, yes.
And so we talked about relationships. I talked about the financial components that come with it, but it's also fun. So I want to show you a little something about what I'm talking about. I'm not sure if Drake is big in India. Is Drake big in India?
Yeah.
Do people know who he is?
Yeah.
They do. Okay. So he's right here in this picture, right? Drake's Canadian. The guy beside him went to my high school. So theoretically speaking, I'm one removed from Drake. Not that I'll ever meet Drake, but if I reached out to my friend Wesley, who's in this picture, maybe I could. Do people know who Ryan Seacrest is? Maybe, maybe not. He has a show in the US where they called American Idol. Have you seen those? Do you have a version of it?
Yeah. We
You
do
do?
have.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the person beside him in the black shirt is the son of a former prime minister of Canada. And you'll notice he's sitting here at this wedding, a royal wedding. You might recognize Prince Harry and his wife getting married in England. And Ben Mulrooney, that's his name, who's in the black shirt,
Yeah.
son of a past prime minister, is on Twitter with me. And he does all these things with all these stars, and people have always made fun of my name for people who know who Paul Abdool was. And I asked him, when she comes to Canada, can he help me out? And he said, sure. So I want to meet her one day because people have always made fun of me. So I thought it would be good. Now, another example of networking is this guy that's getting hit in the face by The Rock. Does everyone know who The Rock is? A famous wrestler, actor. The guy that he's knocking around, he played on my volleyball team at university, and he always wanted to be a wrestler. And now he's a wrestler and he trains people how to wrestle. But that's him with The Rock, one of the most famous people in the world. And Lance is his name. You can look him up, Lance Storm. He played volleyball with me at university. So my point is networking can be fun, but it can also be scary. So I want to ask at this point, are people scared to network and to meet other people? Just yes or no in the chat. Are people confident or are they scared? What
Some
are
of
they
them are saying yes, some of them are saying kind of.
Kind of. Okay. Well,
So
good.
most of them are saying yes.
Most of them are saying yes. Now, that's, I would say, a typical answer for most students. I would even say it's a typical answer for younger people in business. And XPLOR is one of those places that makes you feel warm, get a warm welcome. If you're a student or someone new to the business, nobody will think that you are not smart enough to talk to, or any question is beneath them or stupid. They will help you out. Now, these people, are any of these people on the phone? Because they all reached out to me on LinkedIn and asked me to link up with them there. So good for all of you for doing that after the first meeting 2 weeks ago when we talked. Today, this is one of the ways you have to do it. You can use LinkedIn. This was a great forum to do it. I wasn't a stranger anymore to you. I was somebody who spoke to you in your class. You will never know where this will go if we'll be able to help each other in one shape or form. But good for you all for doing that. Are any of these people on the call today? Just yes or no?
Yeah, they are there.
Yeah, all of them? Okay, great. I'm glad you're here today. So I wanted to say one other thing. So for the people who are scared, Skip, you'll recognize this picture. Michael,
Yeah.
this is a place where we have our conference, where we're hoping to have it again in St. Pete's Beach in Florida, one of my favorite places to have a conference. And this is a scary place for some people. How do you meet people? Now, what you'll notice is that these people are talking together and there's nowhere to really enter that conversation. Same with these people, two people face to face, looks kind of serious and focused. These four people over here are closed and they've created their own little conversation. But what's different is over here, you'll see these people are open. Somebody could join in that conversation, just like somebody could join in this conversation because it's open, it's not closed. So somebody could walk in right here and say hello and introduce themselves, or right here, and these people would greet you warmly. So there's always opportunities to do this. So how do you do it? Usually it's nice if you can start with one person you know or one person you don't know, especially if there's just another person standing alone. It's important to act like a host. Skip is the ultimate host at this event. He knows a lot of people. He'll introduce you to people, as will I or Michael, if we ever have that opportunity. But there's always somebody who knows somebody who can help you out. And then I think it's important to relax and listen and share. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. I like to use a little something called la. So this is a little formula where I start by looking and starting to read the crowd like I showed you in that picture. I access that spot to get started. I listen for an opportunity to get into the conversation, and then I approach and join in the conversation. So a little acronym that I like to people to think about. So look, access, listen, and approach. So what does it look like? I showed you a picture in A. On the left, you'll see these two people are in a closed conversation, but the people in B, they are open. So you could join in that conversation. So that's a basic thing. So what do you say? What do you do? After we pass through all of this pandemic stuff, you can shake hands again and introduce yourself and say something memorable. Just think about what that person's saying, something that's important. I'll give you an example of how I would remember your professor and hearing her talk with Manish for the first time because they went to school together. So it's a story I remember. And then the other day, I actually met another lady who was from Pune, who lives in Toronto now, and she was looking for an opportunity, and a friend of mine put her on to me. And then there's something called an elevator pitch. Does everybody know what an elevator pitch is? Or have you ever heard of it? Just yes or no in the chat. What are people saying that heard?
Yes.
Yeah, they've heard of it. Okay. So essentially the concept is an elevator ride takes about a minute. You should be able to express yourself in a minute so somebody knows what you're all about in a short period of time. And so what would you talk about? You know, where are you? What are you doing? Why did you come to this conference? Where are you from? What hobbies do you do? What books have you read lately? Tell me about sports. I'm a volleyball player. People know that. Skip, you might recognize this volleyball from back here, from the
Mhm.
XPLOR Olympics. It has a treasured spot here. And you might speak about a trip or a recent experience, but what wouldn't you talk about? Can somebody give me one or two things you would not say or talk about or bring up? Anything showing up in the chat?
Nothing yet.
Nothing yet. I'll give you 3 things you shouldn't talk about: the weather, religion, or politics. It can
Right.
go off in crazy directions. So keep it light, stay away from those things, especially in some heated environments around the world. So after you leave the conversation, what's important? What should you do? You should write down something about that person. If you've taken their business card, you might simply write something down about them. You might say, Michael always wears a baseball hat. Usually it's a Canadian one or a Blue Jay hat, something that you would remember him by, and or something that's memorable about them, and then follow up with them. The people that sent me a LinkedIn invitation, good for you. That's a form of follow-up. So this is what I want you to note about the whole networking thing. It's like farming. It's not hunting. It takes time. You have to plant seeds, water it, put sunshine on it, let it grow, and take care of it. You have to listen, talk, listen. So you have to listen more than you talk. Somebody once said we have 2 ears for a reason and 1 mouth. So listen more than you talk so you can hear about the other person and learn about them. And move around. Don't stay in the same group the whole time, and look for that next opening, like those diagrams that I show you, and have some fun. So takeaways: the XPLOR effect. Be part of that ecosystem. Right now, try to engage somebody in your industry, in your area, or via LinkedIn, or keep participating in meetings like this, or as Skip graciously offered, to participate in the virtual XPLOR conference this year, and keep increasing that social capital. And what that means is you want to keep increasing your knowledge, information, all of those pieces, so that at one point in time you'll be able to give back or share with other people. You also want them to remember 3 things about you: who you are, what you can provide, and how they can get in touch with you. So have a positive attitude, and remember, it's network, and I stress the work part every time. And if you're ever working in a room and meeting people, breathe, act like a host, and remember LALA: look, access, listen, and approach. So thanks for participating in our 3rd session here of Explore India's lecture series.
That was good, Paul.
Yeah, that is amazing. That
I
is
even learned a
amazing.
lot. So
Excellent.
Yeah, students, do you have any questions to ask? You can put it in the chat box, or you can unmute and simply ask.
good boost to start the day. I
Yeah,
like
so
that.
she's one of our professors, so she's saying it's a good boost to start the day.
Good. Yes, now I'm back on the chat, so I'm looking at the comments. That's great. Good to see that there was a little participation, and they weren't just, it's hard in the virtual learning environment. My son's going through it, my daughter's going through it right now, so it's nice to have somebody on the other side responding to things you say.
Right.
Well, if there's no questions, that's okay. Thank you very much for participating today, and I can certainly share this presentation if you wish. Madhura, I'll just maybe take out some personal things, but besides that, I'll send through the important parts of the notes.
Yeah, sure. That'd be very
Oh, I
nice
see
of
a
you.
question.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's a question.
I see it. It says, being an introvert, networking can be difficult. Any tips for them? Absolutely. First of all, research shows that introverts are better networkers than extroverts. And it doesn't make sense when you think about it just quickly, but it does if you think it through. So what I learned is I'm by definition more of an extrovert than an introvert, but we're all a mix of both of them. But what I would find is that extroverts will go around and meet lots of people and have short conversations. Some might say meaningless conversations, because it's hi, bye, see you later, cheers if you're having a drink. But an introvert will have a deeper conversation. So my tip is, think about the opening that you have if it's in a physical environment. If you're in a virtual environment and you are meeting someone online, let's say on LinkedIn or through some other social network, to engage in something meaningful. Ask a question, learn about them, and give them something as well. So there was a famous person who had 2 jars on their desk, and they put a coin in to one jar every time they helped somebody, and every time somebody helped them, they put a coin in that one. And he always wanted to have the one more full with the one that he was helping people. So if you're doing that and you're having conversations, it's going to help.
Right, right. That's great.
It's more about having a fear or prejudice about what the other person's thinking about me. Great point. So I'll give you another example. And if you, first of all, are going to, it's harder, I think, in a virtual environment. But if you are out in a networking environment, especially as a student, you should be greeted with open arms in that right environment. The other part of it is sometimes, and this kind of helps on the introvert side, is having a partner. So if there are 2 of you working together, meeting people, that helps as well. I know the Ryerson students, when they went to their first XPLOR conference, were very shy, and I took them to meet a couple of people, and then I left them alone, and then they met more people, and people kept introducing themselves to them. Some of the things that we do at XPLOR is when somebody's a first timer, we put that on their badge, right? So that the people who are participating realize that that person might not know anybody. So it helps to encourage other people to talk to them. So I always thought that was a good idea, Skip.
Yeah, I want to add, for me, it's to be passionate about this industry. Like, to me, you know, I thought I was done in my career, but I have a passion for this industry, and you know, that got me through that being an introvert, that being, you know, that got me out. I'd never taught a class. My first night was 135 students, back of a lecture hall, but you get over that, because I think if you've got the passion for this industry, and it gives you confidence, and see it as more than a career. Everybody I've met in XPLOR, you know, nobody mails their jobs in. They're very, very passionate. It is an amazing industry to get into. It's so varied, and the places you can go. That to me is the power of XPLOR. Like I've been coaching the teams at Ryerson. I've been teaching courses, and I really feel I'm helping the association. When I'm teaching, I'm carrying the torch for all those EDPs out there, and that's helped me a lot. Like just to get confidence and the ability to talk to people and to network. So it's been an amazing experience for me. The things I could talk about, the things the association has opened up for me. My career is never done.
I see another question. We're getting a question that says how to explore and experience a new technology in this pandemic. One of the great ways is the virtual conferences that are available. Many of them are free to attend because of the sponsors that have supported them. Of course, Skip offered to allow you to participate, and you'll start to hear about new things. One of the things that I've always noticed is that when there is a conference, the challenge is always to present something new. So if you are going to some of those, you will naturally hear about something new. So I think that's good. Also, through your networking, if you do reach out to somebody, ask them what they're doing that's new. I learned something new today, actually, with my business. I am involved in some sales, and there was this person who told me about software that's helping to automate some of the outbound communications. And I just learned about a whole different industry of software that's helping support those conversations. So just keep putting yourself out there and keep trying. Oh, social media, that's a great one. I'll give you a great example. The vice president or vice chairwoman of XPLOR, and she's of XPLOR International, and she's the XPLOR Canada president. She is big on social media, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Instagram. And one of the things that happened is I met her on Twitter in a forum where we were talking about print. So another XPLOR member, somebody who's helped Skip out a lot with marketing, has a forum every Wednesday at 4:00 called Print Chat. And I ended up meeting her there. And then when I went to the conference, I actually met her in person. I'm speaking about Joanne Gore, Skip.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, and by the way, I think it's important. It's not even a form of networking, but it's a form of marketing and exposure for you, is to write something and have it published, whether it's a blog or in your, if your university, your college has a newsletter, because an XPLOR member told me that Google's the new resume. So if they can't find you, and they don't know what you're doing, it doesn't matter. So social media can certainly help. Yeah, good. You know what? I think people need to have a professional photo. I see a question coming up there. I think it's important. I don't think it's the most important thing, but I think it presents you. Just like I put on a tie today for you, I'm presenting, and Skip always makes fun of me for wearing a tie because we're not that formal at XPLOR. But everybody has a style, so be yourself and put that out there.
Absolutely.
Mine's Hawaiian shirt.
That's right. That's your signature look. See if any other questions come out. Well, I'm not seeing any more. Maybe that's it for today, Mehura. Oh,
Yeah. I think what you said was really true, that these things would not have been taught in their, are not a part of their curriculum, and would not have been covered in their classes. Though we keep arranging and organizing so many things for the students, but I
oh,
guess what is its worth is probably understood by your session today. So I think that was a wonderful. I was totally awed by all the things that you have shared, and I am sure our students also would have learned. I think in the last 6 months of this pandemic, we've connected the maximum, the most. I would say it's otherwise,
I agree.
our 10 to 6 job leaves us with just commuting to college, being there in the college, and then going back home, and then again going back to the college the next day. And I think this has really helped. And see, we wouldn't have started XPLOR if we weren't sitting at home.
Oh, that's
So I
true.
think and that's the advantage which we have received. Though we are not physically present in most areas, but we could network uh, across the various media and connect, and which could, I could take an advantage. I could pass it on to my department, and I could pass it on to my students as well. So that was the advantage. And I think XPLOR has been the best opportunity which we've all received in this pandemic. Uh, I'm really thankful to Manish, who has initiated it. And thank you to Skip and Paul. You have been great today. And thank you, Michael, for sharing your views as well. So I guess since there aren't any questions anymore, then we will surely conclude this meeting. And thank you all for being present for this session.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
And thank you, Madura.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, have a good day.
Yeah,
Study hard.
absolutely. That's a good message.
Take care.
All right, have a good night. I'm going to
Have a
bed.
good night to you. Yeah.
All right.
So we are all happy with all good nights and thank yous.